The Holy Book, Kav Hayashar, Episode 10. When one makes a Seudas mitzvah, such as a bris, an engagement, or a bar mitzvah, it is important to see that the poor and needy are among the invitees, and that they are well taken care of. For if a person makes a simcha for his son or daughter, but fails to invite the poor, the wicked lilies and the samach mem bring indictments against him in the heavenly court until he is beset by afflictions. The Medrash tells us, for example, that this is what happened to Avraham because he did not invite any poor people to the feast that he made upon Yitzchak's weaning. Commenting on the verse, and after these matters, Bereshis 22.1, the Medrash explains that it was in response to the Sultan's indictment that the Holy One, blessed is He, subsequently commanded Avraham, "Take now your son, your only one, Yitzchak, and offer him there for a burnt offering." Bereshis 22.2. Similarly, because Eov made a feast for his children, to which no poor people were invited, the Sultan was given permission to kill all his sons and daughters, and to deprive him of his wealth and livestock as well. Yet, even this was not sufficient to satisfy the Sultan, until he was allowed to afflict Eov's person. Therefore, whoever holds a feast should be sure to invite the poor, so that the accuser will have nothing to say against him. Moreover, he will actually be transformed into an advocate. Thus, Medrash Tanchuma Ha'azinu 8 relates the following story. A certain wealthy and learned man, whose only daughter was as beautiful as she was modest and pleasant-mannered, the father betrothed her 3 times to 3 different worthy suitors in succession. But in each case, the groom was found dead the morning after the wedding night. At last the widow proclaimed, "Let no more men die on my account. I will remain a lonely widow from now on until the Holy One, blessed is He, has mercy upon me." And so she remained single for many years. Now, it so happened that this wealthy man had a brother living in another country who was extremely poor. He had 10 sons, and every day he and the eldest son would bring back wood from the forest to sell in order to maintain his household. One day they were unable to sell the wood they had bought, and consequently had no money which to buy bread. That night they all went to bed hungry. The next morning they went again to the forest to fetch wood for sale, but the father fainted along the way. The son's eyes brimmed with tears over his father's poverty, and he raised his eyes to heaven. After considering the situation, he asked his father for permission to go visit his uncle. Upon his arrival at his uncle's home, the uncle and his wife and their widowed daughter all rejoiced to see him and inquired after the well-being of his parents and siblings. He remained there 7 days, at the end of which he said to his uncle, "I have a request to make, and I beg of you not to turn me down." The uncle replied, "Please, my son, ask whatever you desire." The son said, "I will not ask for anything until you swear that you will not refuse me." And the uncle complied. The son then continued, "My request is that you give me your widowed daughter in marriage." Upon hearing this request, the uncle began to wail. "Please, my son," he begged, "do not make this request, for on account of our many sins, whoever marries my daughter dies after the first night." But the son insisted, "It is with full knowledge of this that I am asking to marry her." The uncle told him, "If it is money you are after, do not marry her, and I will heap upon you silver and gold. For you are a pleasant and wise young man. I do not wish for you to endanger your life." But the son was adamant, "You have already sworn to me." When the uncle saw that the young man would not yield, he went to inform his daughter. Upon hearing news, she too began weeping bitterly, crying out, "Master of the universe, take my life and do not kill this young man." But a short time later, the two were betrothed. The father of the bride, who was also the groom's uncle, invited all the elders of the city to the wedding. They erected a canopy for the groom to sit in at the wedding, and while he was sitting there, Eliyahu Hanavi arrived in the guise of an elderly man. He called the groom over to him and told him, "My son, I'm going to give you some good advice, and I warn you not to deviate from it. Today, while you're sitting at a feast, a poor man will come to you. He will appear to you the most wretched individual in the world. As soon as you see him, you must rise from your place and seat him beside you. Give him to eat and drink, and wait upon him with all your might and all your personal attention." When he finished speaking, the old man turned and left. The night of the wedding, the groom was sitting at the head of all guests when a beggar entered. The moment the groom noticed him, he stood up, seating the beggar in his place and obeying all the instructions that Eliyahu had given him. When the feast was over, the groom entered his chamber, and the beggar went in after him. "My son," he said, "I am a messenger from the Omnipresent, and I have come to take your soul." The groom replied, "Grant me a year, or even half a year." "No," the beggar said, "I will not do as you ask." "Grant me 30 days, the groom pleaded. "I will not," said the beggar, whom the groom now knew to be the angel of death. "Grant me until the end of 7 days of feasting." "No," said the angel of death, "I cannot do you the kindness of granting you a single day because your time has come." The groom made one last request. "Allow me to take leave of my wife and my uncle, who is my father-in-law." Then the angel of death said, "I will grant you this because you acted with kindness toward me, but return quickly." So the groom went to the chamber where the bride was sitting alone and crying and praying to the Holy One, blessed is He. When the groom came and called to her, she arose and opened the door. She clasped his hand and kissed him and asked, "Why have you come to me alone?" The groom answered, "I have come to take leave of you because my time has come to go the way of all the earth. The angel of death appeared to me and told me that he has come for my soul." The bride said, "Do not leave. Sit here while I go and speak with him." So she went to the angel of death and said to him, "Are you the emissary that has come for my husband's soul?" "Yes," he acknowledged. "But is it not written in the Torah? When a man takes a new wife, he shall not go out to the army, nor shall he go out to any task. He shall be free for his household an entire year and cause his wife, whom he has taken, to rejoice." Devarim 22.5. The Holy One, blessed is He, is a God of truth, and His Torah is a Torah of truth. But if you take the soul of my husband now, the Torah will appear false. Heaven forbid. If you heed my words, good and well. But if not, then I summon you to Din Torah before the heavenly court, before the Holy One Himself. The angel listened and then said, "Because your husband acted with kindness toward me and honored me, I will grant your request and bring your case before the Holy One, blessed is He." So the angel went to the Holy One, and in a blink of an eye, he returned rejoicing. "The Holy One has granted the groom his life," he exclaimed, in the merit of his kindness towards the beggar. All night long, the bride's father and mother wandered about outside of the bridal chamber, listening to the voices of the bride and groom rejoicing. In the morning, they entered the room and saw that they were both safe and sound, and they all rejoiced together. Then they revealed the matter to the entire community, and they all offered words of praise and thanks to the Holy One, blessed is He. This is the story as it is related in the Medrash. And it was all because of the groom's display of loving kindness towards the poor. Therefore, a person must be wary of ever showing a stern countenance towards the needy who come to his door. And one must be especially careful not to glower at those who come to partake of a Sudas mitzvah. For by shaming the poor, one brings on great misfortune. And let the host not be concerned if he must add a little to the cost of the feast on their account, because their presence is an atonement for him. Thus, the illustrious Maharal Habavli writes in his Tamei Mitzvos, Positive Mitzvah 40, There is a great benefit to the host of a feast in the eating of the poor that are invited to participate. This is completely analogous to the case of the sacrifice in which Kohanim eat and the owner receives atonement. Moreover, let him be generous towards them so that he may be applied the verse. One with a generous eye, he will be blessed. Mishlei 22:9.